Hey guys, welcome back. I haven't been real great about videoing a lot of this stuff that I've been doing. So I'm trying to get back in the habit of just taking the time and at least setting the camera up so you guys got something to watch. A lot of people just don't do this or have never done it. Some of this stuff I've never done. So if I can kind of think through it and help somebody out, cool. If you know of a better way for me to do something that I'm doing, by all means, let me know. I'm always here to learn, and I'm not a master fabricator. I'm not much of a master at anything. But I've messed enough up that usually I can figure it out. So the next thing I'm gonna work on before the motor and stuff comes back is I want a piece of carbon across the dash. This might be a little bougie. I think it looks cool. I love the look of carbon. You know, the electronics panel over there is carbon. I had like a 5x5 sheet that I bought last year sometime. So I've got enough left over that I can just cover this dash in carbon. That gives me a spot to mount my draggy. I'd like to come up with some kind of cell phone mount. If you guys have any cell phone mount recommendations, by all means drop them in the comments and let me know. But so Brian Hammer hooked me up over at Hammer Concepts and Designs. If you guys haven't been over on his website, check it out. He's got a ton of tabs, and I mean, don't get me wrong, he builds amazing rear ends, and all kinds of other chassis stuff. But I went to him and got some tabs and scallop strips and just a bunch of random stuff. So the plan is to take the scallop strips across the top of the dash there, and then another one from here pointing up to the top one. So we just gotta lay a nice flat piece of carbon across there. But these scallop strips come straight. They're wide enough so you can't really bend them without them bowing around real bad. So my way around that, I don't have a shrinker. So I don't have any way to like just put it in a shrinker and just curve it like I needed to. So I just took the die grinder, just cut little 1/8" slots in there. It's pretty much in every scallop right there. But what that does is that allows you to curve it. So basically you can kind of bend it around the curve of the dash without it bowing up real bad. This is kind of a perfect spot right in here because you can see a little bit of a high spot where the cut is, but it's not terrible. You know, you can easily bend that around, and it's not in the middle of a mounting point. So I've just got it held up here with some vice grips right now. My sweet ruler is so I can take another one and just kind of set it up there and figure out exactly what angle I need to weld this at. So I don't want to have to bend these around real bad. I'll probably just use silicon bronze to weld them in just because they're not really a structural part and they're kind of thin. So I don't want to have to bend them a whole lot. I mean, obviously up on the windshield rail and stuff like that, I'll probably have to bend it a little bit, but I'm trying to avoid it and get it set up as much as possible. So I'm gonna try and set the camera up for you guys and film some of this. For you guys that didn't see, there's brake pedals, gas pedal. I did get the transmission tunnel in too. So we got it cleaned up. It was welded in before and it just didn't look good. So I wanted to be able to remove it. So you can kind of see down here on the bottom where there's light coming through, I'll just seam seal in there. But that bottom piece right there was just a strip that I had cut down on some sheet metal to bring it up a little bit higher off the actual floor. And then I just welded some Zeus tabs on the back side with springs already and mounted those. So There's 4 on each side. There's one in the top up there. I don't have one in the very front just because, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So that is the transom. Really the only thing left on the interior is get them out in the parachute handle. I'm gonna try and get my dash stuff done, and then that's about it. I need to put a coat of paint on some of this stuff and seam seal some of these holes. But other than that, interior wise, it's pretty well done, short of wiring. But the wiring will be the very last part of anything. So everything will be in the car before a single wire is put in. I've made that mistake once, and I'm not gonna do it again. So hang out, and hopefully we don't mess this up too bad. All right, so we got the scallop strips in for the carbon dash. It was kind of hard to film. I had both my hands full and everything, and I was trying to get these things lined up. Fun fact, don't try and TIG weld the like drip edge where your windshield sits to clean metal. There's seam sealer and all kinds of other trash back in here, and it just wasn't happening. So I had to bust out the old squirt gun MIG welder and just kind of tack it in place. I mean, it's pretty solid. It's holding a piece of carbon. Like, there's nothing that's gonna have any real weight to it. The only thing that might get mounted up there is my draggy and a cell phone. So got that done. Welded the bottom rail just straight to the dash bar here, and then I was using my straight edge just to kind of get it in a roundabout like flatness, basically. That way the carbon doesn't have a bunch of distortion to it. It'll kind of lay up there. It's obviously going to curve around a little bit just because nothing is flat up here other than the bar. But I don't want it to have like a bunch of giant waves to it. I would like it, if it's gonna be here, I want it to look good. And quite honestly, if it doesn't look good, I'll just pull it out and ditch the whole idea. But I think it'll work. I mean, who can get mad at a nice clean piece of carbon all the way across the dash? And then I'm gonna run the brake lines up there, basically like right up against where the cowl would be. The master cylinders are over here, so rather than putting the brake lines out in the open, and really it's just because I don't want to go through the firewall and don't want to have to deal with routing stuff around them. There's going to be enough stuff in the engine bay as it is. I'd rather not deal with more brake lines, so I can run one out. Basically the front master cylinder, which I believe is this one, will get teed off. You know, it'll come out of there, tee off. One line will go over to the other side to the passenger, and then one line will go over here to the driver's side. And then it can just run through these holes here, and you can see a hole right up there, and that actually goes right into the wheel well. So that'll work out good. And then as far as the rear line goes, I don't really care about that. Honestly, I'll probably just run it down along the edge of the frame rail right here, and then bring it up into the center of the sheet metal back there, just because that's right over the rear end housing, and then I can put a flex line on it. So the next step on the dash is going to be to take handy dandy poster board. If you're making anything out of carbon, steel, just anything, I highly suggest that you go, that you just go buy you some cheap poster board and use this. The stuff's like, I don't know, 68 cents a sheet, whereas a 2x4 sheet of carbon is, I don't know, like 100 times that, maybe. No, yeah, Yeah, like 100, it's like 68 bucks, whatever. But it's a whole lot easier to trace it all out on the poster board and then just kind of tape it all together, make sure it's what you want, transfer it to the carbon, and then you don't have to cut once. And this is a whole lot easier to cut with a pair of scissors than a piece of carbon is. So I'm gonna get, excuse me, I'm gonna get this made up, and then we'll transfer it over to the carbon and hopefully get a couple of Clecos in it tonight, and at least if we don't get all the holes drilled, at least get it in there, maybe get it cut and go from there. But pretty excited about it. I think this will look killer in the car. All right, we have our template made. So as you guys can see, I just took that cardboard and cut it up, or the poster board. Honestly, the best way I found to get the template, and especially the curve across the top of the dash, is to just lay the piece of poster board up here against like this outer edge where the window would sit, and just trace the backside. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as you have like, sorry, I'm trying to hold the camera. As long as you have like some dotted lines or just a general idea of the curve. I tried to make the curve over here the first time and it was just a pain. And then I was standing in front of the car. I was like, let me just trace this. And it turned out a whole lot easier. This bottom line across the bottom of the dash will get cleaned up. Obviously on the carbon, I'm gonna run just, honestly, I use a chalk line for some of these longer straight runs. This will probably get cut in half just because I don't think I have a wide enough piece of carbon. So I'll probably just seam it right dead in the middle, trying to reduce the waste on it because it is so expensive. And then I may just weld I'll probably weld a piece of scallop strip together and then just run it down the middle. That'll kind of help support the dash. Like I said, there's not going to be anything in it. My screen and everything gets mounted on the column, so it's more of an aesthetic thing. And like I said, I'll probably put like some kind of draggy mount. I think I'm gonna hardwire my draggy in, or at least plug my give my draggy a 12-volt plug up there. I may run my USB connections from the ECU and my dash as well. It just kind of hit me, but that'll give me a nice spot to just plug in, and just kind of leave the cable dangle maybe over on the other side. Usually I got the passenger door open when I'm looking at data logs or sitting in the seat. So maybe this will serve multiple purposes, but it's kind of late, so I'm gonna call it a night, and tomorrow I'll be back and we'll get a piece of carbon cut and hopefully have a nice carbon dash at the end of it. All right, so we got a final-ish product. All the Zeus scallop strips are in. They're all welded in, and then I made my template yesterday with the poster board. So basically I just transferred the poster board template to my sheet of carbon, and this is what came out. I almost had enough carbon to just make this out of one full piece, but I would have had to go corner to corner to the piece I had. I didn't really want to do that because honestly, I would like to make a carbon cowl too, like the cowl cover up here. So I think I may try and do that. I don't know. I bought this sheet of carbon last year thinking I was going to use it for a bunch of electronics and stuff like that, and I just didn't, so might as well use it. If nothing else, it looks cool. Carbon in a car, just, I don't know. I won't say it elevates the look of the car, but I think it looks good. So I need to paint the scallop strips and the cage, and I need to paint some other stuff like where we added these braces in on the main hoop. So I don't want to start drilling holes. I think what I'm gonna do is I have some button head screws. I think I'm gonna try and put some button head screws like up here along the windshield, because the windshield's gonna sit right there. So you're not really gonna see that top, but for whatever reason, if it needs to come out, I may put those button head screws in like up along the top there and put a dab of like panel bond on them. That way they're bonded to this, and I can take the nuts off the bottom real quick and just kind of try and lift it out of there. I don't know how that's gonna work because there's not a windshield in here. So hopefully I don't have to cut it apart to get it out. And quite honestly, hopefully I don't need it out. But I'm pretty happy with the final product.